Rolling with the homies.
And we are rolling with the homies.
What's up?
What up?
What up?
We back.
Always back.
We back at it.
Yep.
Did we do one yesterday?
Yeah.
2 in a row. Suck
I
it.
think so. Oh, yeah. We were all, because we were off
We
on
did.
our mini vacay. Yeah.
For sure.
Yep.
This was a super good episode.
Yes. Super good.
Let's get right into it.
Okay.
Welcome back, everyone.
Yes. Season 2, episode 6, The Old Gods and the New.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we open Winterfeld's being attacked. Maester Lewin has gotten through at least to the where the birds are or the ravens, so he can send a letter. He's writing the letter. He looks up. That's definitely the three-eyed raven that's looking at him, right?
No.
No,
It was just a raven. I think he was just
because he goes and gets a raven. That's where I was like, well, that's weird.
I don't think so.
Okay.
We'll have to rewatch it.
Maybe that's just, again, I type notes during the episode, so I'm not always looking.
You could be right, but I didn't catch that.
Okay. Well, anyway, so he sees a raven, and then he walks past that raven and goes to another one, and gets it in the air before the soldiers get through the door.
I'm sorry. Oh,
I'm
Lord.
apparently already boring you.
Pardon me. I was going to say I was waiting for him to suspense, him getting that bird ready, and then it immediately just be like, bloop,
Yeah.
plucked from the sky.
Yeah. So then
But no, it made it. So
yeah, it
go
did
ahead.
make it. So we cut to Theon. He's talking to Bran. He says, "I've taken your castle," and
And he's like half waking
he
up, so he's like,
woke him up. Yeah.
he's like, Theon? What? Why?
Why? And he goes, "It's Prince Theon now. I've taken Winterfell. I took it. I'm occupying it."
And Bran's probably like, am I fucking am I dreaming?
Yeah. So he says, "Why?"
And looks so not alarmed whatsoever because he's just so confused.
Yeah. And so he's like, "Hold on. Like the last time I saw you, you were leaving with Robb." And then Theon says, "Well, yeah, he sent me to Pike, and I'm a Greyjoy, and I can't fight for Robb and my father at the same time."
He sent him to Pike? I thought it was
Robb
his
sent
idea.
him to Pike. Well, but he tells Bran that. I mean, technically, Robb sent him. He's the one that said, "Yes, go."
Yeah, but it was his idea.
Yeah, but details.
Well, I realize that.
Details,
I'm,
baby, details.
I'm just saying this to you.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I'm like, what?
No,
What?
he's
What?
He's trying to make it sound
Yeah, punk bitch.
like he didn't do something. Him suggesting it and then flipping the script on Robb when he gets there makes him way worse than Robb saying you need to go and his father then talking him into it.
Agreed.
So clearly he's going with the latter.
Yup.
Yeah, it's his backstory. So then Theon says, "You need to get up. I need you to tell everyone that you've yielded the castle to me." And Bran's like, "No, I'm not doing that."
No, I'm not going to do that.
And he's like, I won't yield. I'm not doing it. And Theon says, "The castle is mine, but the people are still yours. If you yield to them, they'll be safe. And if you yield to me, they'll be safe." And he says that's what a good lord would do. And so Bran, he then asks Bran, he's like, "Where's Hodor?" And Bran's like, "I don't know.
I don't
you
know,
just
man.
woke me up.
Yeah, how the hell would I know?
I can't walk."
You've seen my day thus far.
Yeah,
You've
this
seen
is
the whole
it.
thing.
You busted in here, didn't even knock. Yeah. So then he asked Theon. He said, "Did you hate us the whole time?" Which
And Theon has nothing to say
no
to that.
answer because he's a dick. So then we see Bran. He's saying that he yielded the castle in front of everyone.
Yeah.
And so
and
then
he's saying it like,
he
yeah,
says-
we go to the castle.
Yeah, he says, I've yielded the castle to Theon. And Theon goes, "Louder. Say Prince Theon." And so he says it a little louder, and then Theon goes a step forward, and he goes, "I'm Theon Greyjoy." And then one of the guys is like, "We know you for a steaming sack of shit."
Yeah,
And so...
because he's speaking to all the people that have seen him grow up.
Yeah, exactly. And so Theon's like, "You can't talk to me like that." And Bran is...
Oh, and I was wondering earlier on the subject of how he was treated there. Better, worse, the same as Jon?
Theon is...
I think better.
Theon is treated a little bit better
Because Catelyn
because
doesn't hate him.
Catelyn doesn't hate Theon.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He's
And it
still
seems like
he's
maybe he
still
got to be-
and he's a ward, so technically
Didn't he get to eat? Like he
Yeah.
was inside.
Yeah, no, he has no reason not to be at the main. He
That's
is,
what I mean. So
even
better
though
than Jon.
he's like, I'm a ward. It's like but so we're like you're there because your father rebelled, but typically you would be sent to another castle anyway. Like Robert and Ned were. They grew up together at Lord Aaron's castle.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's very common. The only difference is that you were there under the thought of, we're taking your son, not, hey, do you want to send him here to live with our kids?
Well, every time it seems like he had a better experience than John.
He had a much better experience.
And John
he was raised as he was raised as Rob's brother of sorts, but so was John. In the sense of...
But all in different ways.
Exactly. So, like, Theon takes it as,
but
like...
I'm saying he
you
complains.
guys, like... But he complains because he's a bitch.
Yeah, I'm saying. I'm getting to the... Ultimately, he is a bitch because...
He thinks that
he had it better than him.
He thinks that because he is a Greyjoy and that his father rebelled... Granted, it was a failed rebellion.
And what did you think was going to happen when you went back? He's like, oh, let me go back there and talk to him.
And I forgot.
What did you think was
going to
happen?
He didn't know he was a child when he left, I guess I should say.
What did he think was going to happen?
I think that he thought that he would be so happy because he's the only child left. He's the only boy left.
Well, I guess, yeah, that makes sense. I guess he was expecting this grand welcome.
I mean, by the rules, he is the heir. So in his mind, and of course we get this in the books because it's from the point of view of the character, but in his mind, he thinks, this is all mine one day by birthright.
Yeah.
Because my brothers are dead and Yara is a woman. So this is going to be mine. I'm just here for now, and then like I'll move on, and then everyone will respect me because I have the name. He forgets that the Ironborn doesn't give a fuck about your name.
Yeah, everybody's like, piss on you.
Exactly.
You haven't been around for almost 10 years.
Exactly. Which is why, Yara is able to have the success she does as a woman.
And it doesn't matter who you are. You haven't been here.
Yeah.
And that's our whole thing, is being here at this shitty,
and
hard place.
Yeah, exactly. Like he to them is very prim and proper and
soft,
has had
boy.
soft. Yeah,
You're
exactly.
Soft.
Yeah. So of course he's trying to like make it so that's why he's being so...
He's got to go over the top.
Yeah, exactly. That's why he takes everything to 11.
11.
So Theon tells them that his father is, calling himself king, and that he claimed the North. So now all of them must serve him. And he said, so then that's when the guy who called him a sack of shit's like, yeah, I'm not doing that. And he says, betray me, and you wish you wouldn't. Or you wish you wouldn't have.
Praise this guy.
Yeah. And so then Luwin is told to send letters to Deepwood Motte, where Yara is, and back to Pike, where, of course, Balon is, telling them how Theon has taken Winterfell. And I think he asks Yara to come with like 500 men or something.
Yeah,
like
500.
And so then Luwin's like, he just stares at him. He's like, yeah. And so he says, are you not a maester of the Citadel, and you're not sworn to, you're sworn to obey the Lord of Winterfell? Yeah. And he says, yes. And then he says, I am the Lord of Winterfell, as Bran just informed you, so I'll send the ravens. So as Luwin is leaving, that's when Asha approaches, and she says, hi, you remember me? I'd like to ask you a question. And he's like, what do you want? And she's like, I'd like to serve you. And he was like, I don't need a kitchen whore. And she's like, yeah, Rob is the person who put me in the kitchen. You were there when I was taken captive. I don't like the Starks either. So he's like, well, what do you want? And she's like, I want you to put a spear in my hand.
Give
like,
me
that's
a
what
weapon.
I do. And he's like, no.
That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. So he kind of just tells her to get out of the way. She walks over to where Bran is, and he, of course, is...
He's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, he's like, what? And she's like, it's your dream. It's come,
Yeah.
It's come true. This place is going to
Winterfell
drown.
is drowning.
And I'm not going to let it take me.
Yeah, I'm going to go, I'm a yes man. I'm going to go wherever. I'm going to not die.
Yeah, exactly. So...
A woman.
Roderick, then there's some commotion, and Roderick is brought in. He was captive. He was caught on his way back from Tommen Square. So
and is he just like, I guess he's like an old
Roderick
northerner, and also I guess he teaches the swords.
He's the
'Cause we were trying to-
the Master of Swords.
Yeah.
He's the guy. He's like what Alistair Thorne is at the Wall
Well, we were trying to figure
at
out.
Castle Black.
We were trying to figure out who he was.
I just forgot his
earlier.
name. I knew who he was.
I didn't know who the hell he was.
Yeah, it's Sir Roderick. He's basically like he's like
I
he
got
was
it.
the guy that teaches.
Well, he
them
just said I
and-
shouldn't have put a.
Mhm.
Should have put a.
He said I should have put a
later on.
sword in your belly instead of your hand.
For show.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Yeah. Well, it's like two
Right here.
lines down. So Roderick was caught, and that's when Theon walks up. He tells Roderick, he says, "It grieves me that we meet as foes." And that's when Roderick tells Theon that he was like, "Well, Robb thought of you as a Stark and as a brother." And that's when Theon's like, "The Starks killed my brothers," and Roderick's like, "No, your father's rebellion killed your brothers."
Yeah, the battle that or war that your dad started.
Is what killed your brothers, which is why Balon's so crazy because he knows it.
Yeah.
So then Roderick says, "I should have put a sword in your belly instead of your hand." And Theon's like, "You'll be nicer," and that's when Roderick spits on him and is like,
Well, and Theon also this whole time has a look, just has the aura of like, fuck.
mm-hmm.
Like the whole
he's
time.
so deep.
The whole time he has this internal struggle, and you know he does.
Oh,
but
yeah.
the shittier side is slowly
Well, he
winning.
has to prove himself.
He can't look like a bitch in front of everybody. and Definitely can't look like
Mm-mm.
a bitch in front of his new super badass first mate sidekick guy.
Yeah, exactly. So that's when so Theon's like, "I'll put you in the cell to rot," and that's when Dagmar, the
Yeah, that
badass
guy,
dude.
badass Scar dude.
Yeah, he said badass Scar guy. He says that no.
Can't look like a
Roderick
bitch,
needs
man.
to pay the iron price.
He just spit in your face.
Yeah, he said otherwise no one's gonna respect you. And that's when Theon again so internally like struggling with this. He says, "Sir Roderick, I sentence you to death."
And we have another one of those moments like when Ned Stark is sentenced to death.
Mhm.
Everybody's like, "Whoa, what
Yeah.
the fuck, dude?
Yeah, so-
you just whoa,
Exactly.
whoa.
So Lewin comes up and he urges Theon not to do it.
And
He's-
Bran's losing it.
Yeah, and so Lewin says that Roderick's worth more to Theon alive than dead, and he says the Starks will pay. He tells Theon to think what he's doing, and Theon seals his fate, and he says, "You'll address me as Prince Theon, or you'll be next." And that's when everyone's on
It's
the move.
official.
Roderick's taken to a chopping block. He's put down. Dagmar has his sword out. Theon has a sword out. That's when Roderick looks at Theon and he says, "You pass the sentence, you swing the sword." And then he calls him a coward.
Little bitch
Yeah.
ass.
And so
That's
Bran,
a hard guy right there.
Oh yeah. And
a
he's
hard
a
man.
Northernman.
Hard man.
Yeah. And so Bran is he's freaking out, and so Roderick turns to Bran. He tells him to hush. He says, "I'm off to see your father." And so then Theon asks, "Any last words, old man?" And Roderick says, "The gods help you, Theon Greyjoy. Now you're truly lost."
Yeah, in a very Star Warsy kind of way.
Pretty much. And that's when we find out that Theon is not good.
Yeah, full cunt. Has gone full cunt.
It takes him like 3 or 4 chops to get
through.
through.
He chops like he fucks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it's just garbage.
Yeah, and then he eventually like kicks the head off, like just in poor form.
You
Poor
can't
form.
do anything.
He can't.
Literally can't do anything except
Literally.
shoot birds. He's really good at shooting birds.
Yeah, that's about all you got.
Yep.
Yeah. So we go north. We see.
And being a twat,
Oh yeah, great things for him.
for sure.
So we go north of the wall. We see Ghost. John's yelling at him. Ghost not paying attention. He doesn't want to stay with him.
Well, he's sensing something.
Yeah, he's clearly.
He's like
he's patrolling.
Yeah, but it's clear that he senses
Yeah.
something.
And so Half Hand tells John that he's like, "Yeah, you can't have a wild thing as a pet," and he's like, "You can't tame it." And John's like, "Well, he's not a pet, but
Yeah, he's
like,
not a pet. He's just
but
here.
this is different. Yeah, he's different."
Yeah, and this guy speaking like he knows. It's like, "Oh, really? You've had a direwolf since a pup, and
Yeah.
like it was the exact same number as all your siblings, and like this one was like the one that was like the odd man out, just like
Sounds
me.
like
So
a coincidence.
you've had all this before,
Yeah.
and you're telling me that I can't tame this thing, this
Yeah.
quote pet.
This pet.
So okay, feed me
So
the rest of your bullshit."
He says that they're looking, that wildlings are what they're looking for, that they sleep during the day and hunt at night. And he says, that's when John says, "I thought you said you couldn't know what wild things would do," and Half Hand says, "No, I said you couldn't." So that's when John's like, "Well, why don't we do the same thing? You know, sleep during the day, hunt at night." And Half Hand's like, "Well, because the difference is that they know the country and we don't. I've lost good men out here." You know, to ravines and
also,
stuff.
have you seen those hoodies and shit they wear?
Oh, yeah.
Perfectly blend in with, like, the country side.
Exactly. So, I mean, they're just better equipped because they know where they are.
This is where they live.
Yeah,
There's
and
home court advantage.
And John's like, "Well, I'm northern. I'm a northern man." And he's like, "Look where we are. Does this look like home to you?" Which it doesn't, obviously.
Yeah, not so much.
And then
you live in the nice version of this.
Yeah, and then Half Hand says that if you start thinking you know a place, it'll kill you.
This place,
it'll kill you. So he says, "We're at war. We've always been at war, but we're not fighting an enemy. We're fighting the North, the cold."
The cold.
Yeah. So he said, John's like, "Well, I'd gladly give my life." And that's when Half Hand stops him. He's like, "I don't want you to be glad about it." And he's like, "I want you to curse and fight until your heart is done pumping." And some more foreshadowing that George R. R. Martin loves twinkling in there.
Yeah. And also he's like making John grow up from these like, all these songs and shit of these heroic men. He's like, "I gladly give." He's like, dude, no, we're actually out here now. Don't gladly give your fucking life. Kill people. You don't want to die.
It's a very Sansa, moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Grow up.
Yeah, that's it. So he says, Half Hand says that they won't know you when you die. They barely know your name. He says that they'll just know that some nameless bastard gave his life for theirs. And John's like, he's like, "Do you understand?" And John's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, you're dumber than you look then." So, he says, he's like, "Look, all of it's just words to keep us warm in the middle of the night. You know, that's all it is. Just a prayer and a hope to make you feel better."
Yeah.
Basically. And so they start walking off. John kind of lingers behind a little bit. He looks up at Ghost. Ghost is still...
It's even farther away.
Yeah, and so John just is like, "All right, well, I'm going to let you go do that."
Yeah. Clearly, if everything was fine, you would probably be chilling over here.
Yeah, and I mean, he's familiar enough with Ghost that I think he knows what's up. He knows that
and
he's
they're
good.
weirdly connected. They could find each other in the dark, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. So we cut to Tywin. He's I meant to look up this guy's name. He's talking to some guy who's a Lannister, and he's like, "Can you read?"
Yeah, ask him. Yeah.
Sorry, guys. I don't mean to keep clearing my throat. I just have something in it. Let me look up his name real quick. So while I do that, so he says that it's a letter detailing their movements, that it was meant to, it was being sent from one place to another, basically detailing Tywin's movements.
And he's like, "You sent it to this house."
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was supposed to go to this house.
And so he's like, "Do you know how bad that is?" And the guy's just kind of staring at him. And so he sends Arya to pick up a book. He's like, "It's the one on the," and she just picks it up because she can read.
Yeah.
And so Tywin, always sharp, is like, "Oh, well, my cupbearer can read better than you." So that's when he says, who does this house swear loyalty to? And the guy's like, he still doesn't know. and so he's like, the Starks. So that's really shitty because that guy, the Starks have 20,000 men and my son, and you basically put my son's life at risk
by giving the enemy a little insight.
Yeah. So he's like, you should probably leave right now before I kill you. And so that's when Arya goes to grab the book from the table and she puts it back. And as she's doing that, Tywin says, "Maybe you can devise the next battle plans."
Yeah, he seems like a fun dad when everything is going perfectly fine.
Yeah, I do like his interactions with her.
Yeah. You can tell it's probably the same way that he was with Cersei when she was young.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, she's probably a daddy's girl, and him being like, oh, you're gonna be the perfect little princess and queen one day, and when she's real young.
Yeah,
I'm sure he was like a sweetie
Oh,
towards
yeah.
her, and then a hard ass to his boys.
Well, I don't think. I mean, I'm sure he wasn't like as hard to Jamie as it.
Well, just like
Is Tyrion,
the
but
reading
yeah.
the reading story,
Yeah.
pretty hard on him as far as like, I guess not hard on him like
Well,
beating his ass all the time, but just being like, you have to be like kind of great.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of that was because he wanted him as his heir.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
Yeah, can't have. He didn't want
A
to have a dumb
dyslexic
heir. Yeah.
Heir.
Well, apparently nothing wants to tell me what this.
Oh,
his name is.
whatever.
Doesn't
Some
matter.
fucking guy.
That guy. Everyone knows that guy.
He's a Lannister, right?
Yeah, but he's named at the end.
Or is he just in the Lannister
Oh,
army?
oh. Armory Lorch. That's why I couldn't remember his name.
Lorch.
That's how I'm gonna say it.
All right.
Lorch. Yeah. So he is. So Tywin's brother. Kevin.
Kevin?
Kevin. I
Kevin.
think it's Kevan. Kevin, I guess. But
It
sounds like Kevin.
Can't be Kevin.
I always called him Kevin. Look, here's the thing. I see these names written because
I'm
I've read
just-
these books like
I'm
5
just
times.
saying.
So sometimes I don't quite know.
Weren't we just talking about like silly Game of Thrones names?
Yeah.
Like normal ass names in Game of Thrones?
And then
There's
you have
no
this guy.
fucking way
Yeah.
that Tywin's brother's name is Kevin. I do the numbers.
Okay, well, anyway, he's a knight that serves for the House Lannister.
I'm totally gonna bang Holly.
Yeah. So that guy is the one that can't read.
All right. Kevin can't read.
Kevin
Big
can't
shocker
read.
there.
We're not talking about Kevin.
Oh, we're not
talking
talking
about
about-
Armory.
Oh, that's
You've
right. That's
gotten
right.
off on
I
the
have
whole
gotten off.
thing,
I've
which
gotten
is
off.
why I'm trying
I'm
not to
sorry.
to keep on the
Back
Kevin.
on track. Back on track. We're not talking about Kevin.
Okay, so anyway, that's when Littlefinger shows up, and Tywin's like, "All right, everyone leave." And Arya is like, when she hears Lord Baelish, she's like, she just kind of stands with her back there, not really sure what to do. And that's when Tywin's like, "Clear the table."
Yeah, but she's like, oh.
Well, she's
shit.
trying to figure out what to do because, of course, Littlefinger may recognize her.
Yeah, because he saw her not terribly long ago.
Yeah. Now, granted, she has a little different of hair, but I mean,
Very
Littlefinger is sharp.
very
and
recognizable.
also, we already know he knows that Arya is missing. So
but
it's
he's still
not
pushing that he has both of them.
Yeah, but he knows. Yeah,
Because he even says it. We'll get there.
he
but
says daughters, but yeah, but still, he definitely he would be more on the lookout than other people would be because he knows that they don't have them.
yeah, absolutely.
And he's not been tasked to find them, but he knows that there is a task out there to find them. Or find her. So anyway, so Littlefinger and Tywin are talking about Renly. Littlefinger is like, yeah, we hear this rumor and that rumor, but he says, but there's also talk of other forces, dark forces. But he says, either way, Renly's death, there's an opportunity in this. And Tywin's like, yeah, it's great you see that. We all see shit like that. Why is there any other thing, this brilliant plan of yours to tell me? And he's like, well, the Tyrells have they left Stannis, so they're kind of free for the taking, and they have food, plenty of it.
Yeah, to feed their men and horses.
Yeah. So he says Loras wants revenge. He blames Stannis and Marjorie, and that's when Tywin's like, Marjorie wants to be queen because
Obviously.
yeah, he's done this before. So he's like, that's all great, but House Tyrell rebelled against the Iron Throne and against my grandson, so why should I ally with them? And Littlefinger's like, well, they did, and perhaps that should be punished one day, but let's wait until after Stannis and Robb Stark have been defeated to do that. So then Littlefinger's like, if you would allow me to represent your interests. And that's when Arya spills wine on him, because of course she's trying to pay attention to the conversation and avoid him looking at her.
Yeah,
And
terrible poor.
Yeah.
Terrible poor.
And of course, yeah, so she spills wine. He says it's only wine, it's not a big deal. She apologizes, and he tries to look at her face.
She kind of turns away.
Yeah.
He gets a little bit of a
He gets a look. So I think he has a I mean, it definitely seems like he has a question there.
Yeah.
So that's when Tywin distracts him as he's trying to look at Arya's face. Tywin asks him, Littlefinger, a question, and Littlefinger turns back to Tywin. And as she's walking around Tywin, he says, "You're dismissed, girl, you're dismissed." And as she leaves, Littlefinger eyeballs her.
Yeah.
And then he just kind of has this look on his face. And he says in a very specific manner, Catelyn, concerning her daughters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As in, I think that's her.
Yeah. So it's Littlefinger's got his little nose has got a scent.
For sure.
Yeah. So
Sneaky bastard.
Yep. So we cut back up to north of the wall. The Night's Watch, I think it's like 4 or 5 guys.
Yeah, a handful.
They have there's 3 wildlings surround it. Half Hand gives the signal. One of the wildlings gets arrowed immediately. Half Hand jumps in. Jon jumps in. The other guy jumps in. They kill the one guy, Half Hand does, and Jon runs after the third person. He kind of gets it in the back.
Yeah, like kind of knocks them over, and they end up on like a boulder.
And reaching for an axe, which we can see. And then Jon shoves and flips the person around. We realize it's a girl, Ygritte, of course.
With
we
just
know that.
Beautiful red hair.
Oh yeah, she's so pretty. And so then once he realizes she's a girl, he immediately is like, "Well, not gonna kill you now."
Well, not only a girl,
but you're redhead,
and hot redheaded girl.
Yeah. So when Half Hand gets over there, Jon's like, "It's a girl." He's like, "Doesn't matter."
Yeah. Hold on. Have you guys seen what I found over here? Did you see this?
Yeah. So he says they should keep her alive. Maybe she could answer some questions. And Half Hand's like, "Well, you can keep her alive. But she's not going to answer anything." And he was like, "In the second she gets a chance, she's going to turn on you."
For sure.
Yeah. And so that's when Jon asks her name. She says Ygritte. Half Hand, she asks for Jon's name. She says, "Well, I told you my name, so you need to tell me yours." And so he says, "Jon Snow."
Jon Snow.
And so she tells the Half Hand that they should burn the bodies. And he's like, "Oh, yeah, I would take a big fire."
Yeah, and send a signal to all your homies.
Yeah. And she's like, "Yeah, you should still do that."
They're going to turn into blue people.
Yeah. And so that's when Half Hand's like, "Well, this one's here. He's killed a dead man before. He can kill another. It's fine." So he asks how many wildlings are gathered in the Frostfangs, and she says hundreds of thousands, more than you've ever seen, Crow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my terrible Ygritte impression. And he says, "What's in the Frostfangs that your king wants?" And she doesn't really answer. And he says, "Do you mean to march on the wall?" And then he asks her he asks her, 1, if she knows who he is, and she does. And then 2, he says, if your people took me captive, would they spare me? And she's like, "No, if they were having a good day, they would probably give you, a merciful, quick death."
Yeah, cut your head off if they were feeling nice.
Yeah, otherwise, painful and torturous.
Yeah, they're going to pull your fingernails out and shit.
Yeah, so that's when Half Hand's like, "All right, well, see, Jon, take care of this." And Jon, he's like, if you can, I will. And Jon's like, "I can take care of it.
I got it.
And he's like, "Well, be quick about it." And then he says, "We're deep in their country now, so, don't give her."
And they're not waiting around. They're like, "All right, well, we're going to head.
Yeah.
But
either do it right this second and go with us, or take your time for some reason.
Go ahead and do that and then catch up."
Yeah. So after the other men leave, Ygritte says to Jon, she says, "You've never killed a woman before." And she says, "You don't need to do it." And she says that Mance would take him. And Jon's like, "Well, look, I'm as much of a crow as they are." And so that's when Ygritte turns around so he could behead her without looking at her.
Assumes the position.
Yeah. And so she says, she asks if he'll burn me after, and he says, "I can't. Someone will see the smoke." And she, that makes her even more nervous. And so then she's like, "Well, strike hard and true, Jon Snow, or I'll come back and haunt you." And then he puts the blade against her neck.
They can't be turned once their heads are gone, right? There's no headless ones running around.
Yeah.
There are?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You have to burn them or hit them.
You have to burn them. If these things, if they can get to them and turn them, they'll
It's
turn
either
'em.
Dragon Glass, Valyrian Steel, or Far.
Well, you burn the bodies before. Well, I guess you can burn them.
No, I know
too.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah. You can't. Well,
I
it'll
was
just
gonna
be
say.
burnt to a crisp.
Yeah.
But I'm saying
Yeah.
those are the three
Those
ways.
are the 3 ways.
That kill them.
Yes, we learned that in season whatever when
Cool.
Jon tells Cersei and they all laugh at him.
All right,
Yeah.
got it.
Is that what happens? That's what happens.
Some shit like that.
Something like that. We're way ahead of ourselves here. So he puts a blade against her neck. She says it's cold, and she says, "Go on, be quick about it." And John's hesitating, and then she's getting pissed, and she's like, "Just do it."
And also, she's getting nervous. But
Yeah,
she's
because
like, oh,
well, I
like,
mean, she's got her adrenaline up. She's accepted her death.
exactly, and
Give
she's
it
like,
to her.
she's expecting that he's gonna do it.
Yeah.
But then she's like, oh, you're kind of a little bitch.
Yeah, so then she says, "Bastard, do it." And that really gets him, but he of course is Jon, so he swings the sword, doesn't end up hitting her, hits
the fucking rock.
Yeah.
With the nice ass sword. What
Yeah.
are you doing?
Yeah, just ruining that blade. And so she takes the hesitation obviously to her
Hits him with a-
advantage.
Kicks him.
Yeah, she kicks him
Judo chop.
and runs. And Jon takes off running after her, but she's way quicker and knows the land.
Yeah, and then, like, why are you trying to get to her so bad when you're like, you
'Cause
know,
you-
you're not gonna kill her?
Yeah,
I think you just have a crush on her now.
that's quite a run just for a crush.
Gotta get her. Gotta get her. Gotta get her.
Yeah. So he runs. So he's running after her, and I'm fairly certain that he runs past the place that they end up later, like when they go, like where the
For the cave smash.
no.
Oh, who later?
No, like the where everyone's like, how did they pull Chain out of the water?
Oh, really?
Yes. Yeah, there's definitely a
remember that?
scene. Well, it's a very obvious, like it's a very clear.
Oh, I would have never thought about that.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that he runs. I know that they definitely walked past it at some point, and I'm fairly certain it was that scene.
Interesting.
I meant to look it up. But anyway, definitely a good callback, but obviously they shoot on location, so that's what's up. So anyway, she takes off running. He's running after her. He takes a different way and ends up sliding down a hill and cuts her off. He takes her down and he pulls a small blade on her. Still can't kill her. And
Yeah.
she's like, "We both know you can."
Yeah, it's like,
What are you
what are we
doing
doing?
here?
What are we doing? Why did you even
So,
do this?
Yeah, so she's like, "Look, the sun's going down and your friends are nowhere close. You can yell for them, but
And
nothing's going to happen."
he's like, shit, you're
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. So then we cut to Marcella. She's she's just on a small...
Oh, hold on. But is that where they camp? They camp there for the night.
No,
Oh,
we're
sorry.
not there yet.
Got it.
So Marcella is being like,
On the little boat heading out to the ship,
Yeah.
looking very bummed.
yeah, she's crying.
She's
I mean,
scared as shit.
Obviously, she's going to a foreign land with
By
no
herself.
one. Yeah, I mean, in the book, she has a guard. But
I guess she would have maybe someone with her.
Yeah, she has a Kingsguard with her in the book.
Got
There's a
it.
whole plot line. They see again in the book. I realize that no one really likes Dorne in the show because they don't really touch on it. But in the book, there's this whole Dorne plot line that's very interesting, and you go to Dorne quite often. So there's this knight that goes with her, which is implied, but anyway.
Okay.
So she's being sent. She's crying. Obviously, she's leaving home for the first time with no one.
Yeah, and she's young.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, but Cersei takes it again to 11, and I realize this is your child. but
No. She is a bitch.
Well,
it's like, why
yeah.
do you want to... You know what he's doing, or else you wouldn't be letting him do it.
Yeah.
So why are you acting like such a bitch?
She's one of those people that takes every bit of trauma she's ever had in life and clings to it and uses it as an excuse and then projects it on everyone else.
Yeah, and also it's like, yeah, like you said, 11, like it's got to be like, oh, I need to think of the absolute worst thing ever and say it right now. I need to hurt this person so bad.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we get it.
Yeah. You're
I
upset
hope-
that your daughter is growing up and doing what you're supposed to do as a princess.
And again, you wouldn't be letting him do this
Mm-hmm.
if you didn't think it was the best idea, if you weren't convinced by him.
But you hate Tyrion.
So why are you acting like such a bitch?
Yeah. So what she says is to Tyrion, she says, "One day I pray you love someone. I pray you love her so much when you close her eyes, you see her face. I want that for you. I want you to know what it's like to love someone, to truly love someone before I take her away from you." And Tyrion gives her this look of like, you are a fucking psycho.
Yeah, it's like I have no words.
Yeah. So then he walks away. We see Tommen crying. Joffrey is like, baby, princes don't cry. And so Sansa's like, I saw you cry.
Yeah.
And then she's like,
And he's like, what?
did you speak? And she's like, my little brother cried when I left Winterfell. It seems pretty normal.
Sansa's getting some nuts on
Well, I
her.
mean, what's the worst he gonna do? Kill you?
I know.
All right,
Sure. She's getting some balls.
Yeah. So that's when Joffrey, his only response is Rickon a prince? No. Well, then it's not the same.
Well, it's just not relevant, is it?
Yeah. And so he walks away and he walks past the hound and he says, "Come, dog."
And then he looks like, I'm getting pretty fucking tired of this shit.
Yeah. So they're walking through the square. There's clearly tension, but nobody's really doing anything at first. Everyone's kind of being sort of nice, but it's like passively aggressively.
Everybody's like, oh, good, the king is
Yeah,
here. Oh,
yeah.
that's good.
Yeah, so then finally someone says, "Please, your grace, we're hungry," but he really doesn't do anything.
He's just looking uncomfortable, like, please get me back to my room.
Yeah, you can kind of hear murmuring starting to happen a little bit more. So that's when Tyrion kind of senses what's going on. He
he's like,
turns and says,
Scoot!
Get Tommen
Yeah.
out." So at kind of about that same time, somebody throws shit at Joffrey.
Direct hit.
Direct hit in the face.
Bust his ass in the face.
And Joffrey screams, "I want to know who did it." And then he screams, kill them all.
Yeah, and it's like, ooh.
Wrong
that's
move.
kind of the absolute one thing you just don't say as the king.
No. So then, obviously, craziness ensues. People are starting to fight. People are starting to just grab. People are starting to just
Oh, yeah.
die in the street.
And turning on each other, too. Because,
Yeah.
there's some people out there that are like, well, I mean...
Any excuse, really.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's like a lot of people are pissed, and then there's other people that are... Yeah. I was going to say there's some people that are like, well, that's our government, I guess. Like, what they say goes, and we just got to do it. And then the other people are like, fuck you!
Yeah. Well, and it's a reason also to, like, if even someone has like a copper, it's like, well, that's one copper more than I had.
Yeah, you're right. And there's so much chaos right now. It's like,
now it's
give me
time to
that.
do it, yeah.
Fuck you, give me that.
So that's when Tyrion, Cersei's just like looking at him, and he's like, go then.
Go move it. Yes, blue green.
And so then Joffrey's basically like picked up by the hound and carried at this point. And so as this is happening, Joffrey goes, "I want them executed." And he's like, "They want the same for you."
Yeah, dipshit.
Yeah. So Tyrion is just kind of trying to make his own way. He turns around because there were some noblemen that were like with him. And he turns around, and the crowd has swarmed these guys.
Yeah.
And they're ripping them apart.
They're out.
Yeah.
And they rip one of their arms off.
Rip an arm off and hold it up and cheer. And that's
they're
when Tyrion's
juiced.
like, go.
Yeah.
Go move it.
This has gotten very, very real.
Yeah. So Joffrey, the Hound, Cersei, and Tyrion get through into the Red Keep. So they're good. Meryn Trant's there, of course, because he's, some of the Kingsguard is there and stuff. And Joffrey says, immediately upon the door shutting, he says, "Traitors, I'll have all their heads." And that's when Tyrion goes, "Oh, you blind, bloody fool."
Yeah, and he's just like so pissed.
Yeah,
and then kind of fucks up here.
Well, no, I don't think so.
Oh, I mean, for later reference, but but it's the heat of the
you're
moment.
right, I guess so. Joffrey says, "You can't insult me," and Tyrion says, "We've had vicious kings, we've had idiot kings, but I don't know if we've ever been cursed with a vicious idiot for a king." And he says, and that's when Joffrey's like, you can't, and Tyrion's like, "I can."
It's crazy to look and see how absolutely spoiled he is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he has nothing
Yeah.
to say except the normal king, you can't fuck with me. I have the get out of free jail card to absolutely every single situation in life. Fuck you. You can't say that. And it's like, damn, dude, you got nothing else.
Nothing.
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 What if some like one of these random ass dudes from the street walked up to you and just slapped you,
Yeah.
backhanded your little bitch ass?
Yeah. So
You can't do anything.
not anything at all.
Nothing.
No. So Joffrey says they attacked me. Tyrion says they threw a cow pie at you, so you decided to kill them all.
Yeah, so you want to kill them all.
And he's like, "Look, they're starving." And he says, "They're starving, you fool, all because of a war you started." And then Joffrey says, "You're talking to a king," and that's when Tyrion slaps him.
Damn, everything.
Yeah.
The king thing. The king.
Yeah.
King.
And so Tyrion goes, "And now I've struck the king. Did my hand fall from my wrist?" And nothing to say to that. And
Got
so that's
nothing.
when Tyrion's like, "Where's the Stark girl?" And Joffrey's like, "Let them have her."
Damn.
And Tyrion's like, "If she dies, you'll never get your uncle back."
What do you think he actually cares about?
Joffrey?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Do we need to swap batteries?
Yeah, but I don't think that he cares about anything.
Yeah, I don't. I'm just saying because like anytime it comes, except himself.
No, yeah, but I think he thinks he's invincible because he's the king.
I'm just saying what he wants overall and
He
shit.
just wants
Do you
to
think
do
he-
whatever he wants
Do you
to
think
do.
he needs? Do you think he'd be empty though if he didn't have people to prey on?
Yeah.
That's like the
Yeah.
thing. That's like his hobby is
Yeah.
being able to do whatever he wants with whoever he wants
Yeah.
when he wants to
yeah,
do it.
he wants his little puppets
Absolute
to
control is his
Yeah.
hobby.
Yeah, absolutely.
Got it.
He is a straight sociopath.
For sure.
Like of Ted Bundy proportions. So
Not nearly as handsome.
no, you're right. I was like, well, Ted Bundy's not that hot, that cute either, but I guess cuter than Joffrey.
Joffrey's pretty weird looking.
Yeah, Ted's got to do something about the uni. I
That thing's. Is
would
serious.
definitely be like,
It's
hang on, I know you don't feel any pain. Let me just rip that.
Very serious uni.
So he says you'll never get your uncle back if Sansa dies, and then Tyrion says you actually owe him quite a bit. Do you know that? And so we cut to Sansa. She was being during that exchange. She's being like kind of, well, she's caught and then she's like cornered.
Yeah, and what
then
happened there? Just the same thing? Like the guards, like the people that were watching over
Just
her
so
just
many
got
people.
Yeah, just got swarmed.
Yeah.
And then she ended up by herself.
Yeah.
Which
I
is
mean, she
very
was with her
unfortunate.
handmaidens when she was walking with some women, where she was walking with noble women as
Yeah.
they came up. So they weren't already with like a lot of guards anyway.
So she ends up with like 3 or 4 dudes, random dudes.
Chasing after her. They go into this area. She finally gets caught by them. The one guy says, "You ever been fucked, little girl?" She's laying on her back, and then they turn her over. And we cut back inside the Red Keep. Tyrion tells Meryn Trant, he's like, "Get some men, go find Sansa." Trant's like, "I take my orders from the king."
And then Tyrion looks at the king and he's like, you gonna give this order, asshole?
Yeah, and Joffrey's like, "No, look at that
scratchy. Yeah, look over there.
Yeah, and so that's when we cut back to Sansa. She, at this point, is being held down by several guys. The one guy's unbuckling to obviously rape her. And that's when the Hound comes in and kills...
Starts jacking fools.
Yeah, kills each and every one of them. And he picks her up. He says, "It's all right now, little bird. You're all right." He walks back out. There's still fighting in the streets, but then he carries her into the Red Keep.
Throws her over his shoulder.
Yeah, he's carrying her over his shoulder. Once inside, he sets her down. Tyrion walks up and asks if she's hurt, and then
And he makes another bird reference. It's like, oh, this little bird wounded.
Yeah.
Get her back to her cage or
yeah.
something.
He says, the bird, the fleeing bird needs to be put back in her cage. I don't remember exactly what it was, but anyway, so then Tyrion says, "Thank you" to the Hound, and he's like, "I didn't do it for you."
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got to Dany. She's waiting with Zara.
And we were calling them what? Duck soup?
Duck soup.
It wasn't that. It's duck sauce. Is it? I think it's duck sauce that it sounds like.
We looked it up.
Yeah, but it doesn't. It's not even close to it.
What we looked up, is it? What we're saying?
Yeah.
It's Zara Zohan Daxos.
What letter
Daxos?
is Axe? Where does that one fit in the
It's
alphabet?
Daxos.
I think we were calling him soup, but I think it sounds more like sauce.
Okay, well,
Either way, we can just call him that guy.
duck sauce. Duck soup? Duck sauce.
No,
duck
yeah.
sauce. Okay. So she's waiting with him.
But she's waiting with him for the Spice Man.
Yeah, Spice King.
Spice King.
Yeah.
King of Spice.
Yeah, and she's pissed because she doesn't think she should have to wait.
Which is kind of bratty.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you want something from this guy, and like he probably has things to do in the day.
Yeah. But
besides your shit.
I'm assuming she already doesn't like him.
Well, absolutely, but
because of
she still needs to grow up a little.
Yeah, so she said, so then Duck Sauce is like, well, you could have avoided all of this by marrying me. And she's like, look, I already have a husband. Stop asking.
Yeah.
And he's
I don't
like,
want your shit. I don't want your life.
I don't want it. And he's like, well, Khal Drogo's gone. And you're far too young to be a widow forever and far too beautiful.
Well, yeah, what is she... Was she really gonna? How long is she gonna use the "I already have a husband" thing?
I just don't think she wants to partake.
Just not really into dating right now.
Yeah. Well, also, as a someone who has quite a title, you're not just gonna give it away to anyone.
Also,
once you bring someone else involved, then you have to deal with them because technically he would be king.
yeah, absolutely. Also, she's got to find a dude that can be as good as Jason Mau. Hey, Mau.
I mean, I'm not really into him, but
that's a lot.
It's a lot.
That's some big Dothraki shoes to fill.
Yeah, quite large.
Yeah, he was.
Tuna.
I'm sure he was throwing. Yeah, he was throwing large tuna. He
Yeah.
was throwing heat.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's gonna be hard for her to find a dude.
Yeah, and this dude clearly not a Khal Drogo, not a Jason Mau. So that's when the Spice King finally shows up. He says he was sorry. He had terrible dreams all night and couldn't sleep until the sun was shining and the birds were singing. And
which is like means, oh, I just made you wait because you're my bitch.
Yeah. So then he apologizes for the unpleasantness that happened at the gate. He said that he's glad that she's had some time to let the red waste wear from her. He says that Dany is far too, or he then. Him and Duck Sauce start exchanging weirdness. He's like, oh, Danny's far too nice for a dock worker like you. And he's like, oh, Zazal, you know.
Oh, your grandfather was a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Yes, he was a piece of shit.
Yeah. It's just like words. And Danny's just like, yeah, boys, stop.
Yeah.
Stop it.
If we could.
Yeah. And so he's like, oh, did my servants not get you food or wine? And she's like, you've been a gracious host, but your servants can't bring me what I want. And he's like, what do you want? And she's like, my birthright. And he's like, well, I'm sorry, I can't do that either.
I do not have that.
And she's like, I'm not asking for kingdoms, I'm asking for ships. And she says, whatever you grant me, I'll pay you 3 times over once I retake the throne. And he goes, when did you set the throne? And she says, my father did. And he was like, well, wouldn't that mean that you should say you mean take the throne?
Yeah, you haven't been there since a baby.
Yeah, and so she's like, I didn't come here to argue grammar. And he was like, look, I made my living by trade, and each trade has merit. You ask for ships, you say you'll repay with double, but before you do that, you must seize the 7 kingdoms. Do you have an army? And she says, no. And he says, do you have powerful allies? And she says, once I get there.
Yeah, and she's always like, oh, people
Well, that's
people
what her
want me
brother
to.
has told her.
That's what I mean. It's like, why would you not believe most of the things he said, but you'd hang on to this one that people think that like you're gonna come back and they like drink secret toast to you and shit? Why would you hang on to that one thing?
Well, because the thing is that she is dragon.
Yes, I know this.
Well, but now...
But it all still is bullshit because she doesn't know anything. She was a baby. Then she lived with the fat guy.
Well, she thinks that it's bullshit that they make secret toast to her brother, not to the Targaryens. She still thinks that Targaryen has name in Westeros because she's never.
But it's been almost 20 years.
Yeah, but she doesn't know.
But that's
anything.
that is my point exactly. You don't know. You haven't been out.
But what
and
she
about.
does know is that she's the Unburnt.
She does know that.
And she's the mother of dragons.
She knows she's legit.
So I think she's assuming like I'm a Targaryen. I show up with the dragon.
Yeah, but
everyone will love me.
how many people know that? A handful.
Well,
none of those people know that there's some girl out here that's A, still alive, B, can't be burnt, C, has dragons.
I mean, Robert did try to kill her, so she's under the assumption that people in Westeros still care.
Yeah, but the burning... Okay, they know she exists. You can scratch that one out. The burning thing, the dragon thing. Do you think anybody fucking believes that?
But she doesn't know.
I know this.
But
I know.
I know.
Just
We
making
can
a
go
point.
all. We can go all day with this.
Moving along.
She believes and knows what she is capable of, so she's going to believe that there are people in Westeros that all they need to know is that's Dany Targaryen.
Got it.
Yeah. So she asks if the Spice King knows Ilario, and he says yes, obviously. You're both fat dudes, so...
Yeah, I know that fat guy.
Yeah, I know that one. Pintos, right?
Fat rich guy?
Yeah. She says that he gave her petrified dragon eggs, and no one ever thought that a dragon could exist again, but that she had a dream that all she needed to do was...
Walk into some fire with the eggs.
So she said, when I stepped into the fire, my own people thought I was mad, but when the fire burnt away and I was unhurt, I was the mother of dragons. And she says, I'm no ordinary woman. My dreams come true. But Spice King's still not buying this. He says, I trust in logic, not passion. And she says she'll take what's with hers with fire or blood. Fire and blood.
And again, being very aggressive.
Mm-hmm. And he says, yeah, but not with my ships.
She does hold a lot of confidence with zero backing.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I guess you have to.
Yeah.
Fake it till you make it.
Yep. So we cut to Arya. She's cleaning Tywin's table. She sees a note and she sees Rob's name on it.
But doesn't have time to read the rest.
Yeah.
Just kind of sees that.
Yeah. So Tywin walks up behind her. He asks her who taught her to read. And she says, my father. She said he says I taught my son to read. And he says that Jaime couldn't read well. He reversed the letters in his head. Dyslexic. The maester said that they should expect Jaime to basically not ever be able to read right. And Tywin was like, no, thank you. Not doing that.
Yeah, these were times before drill.
Yeah. We're going to drill
Tywin was
and
like,
drill and drill.
Oh, Jaime, we're going to get this right.
Yeah.
Please believe you me.
Yeah, so for 4 hours a day, every day, he had Jaime read. He said that Jaime hated Tywin for it, but eventually he learned. And he asks Arya, where is her father? Is he alive? And she doesn't, clearly has a look on her face of no.
Yeah.
And he says, who was he? And she says, a stonemason. And he's like, oh, one who could read. And she's like, he taught himself. And Tywin says, well, that's quite a man. And then he asks what killed him. And Arya says, loyalty.
And he's like,
Not
oh,
lying.
you are clever.
Yeah, he says, you're a sharp little thing, aren't you? Which I love because it's like, she's a needle herself. So that's when Arya goes to ask a question, but then she apologizes and says, I'm sorry,
Shouldn't be
I
asking
question.
you shit.
Yeah. I mean, that's...
I just hold the cup.
Yeah. And he's like, no, you shouldn't, but you already started, so go ahead.
Clearly not minding at all because he
No.
likes her.
Yeah. So she asks if Tywin knew his father. And he said, I did. I grew up with him. I watched him grow old. He said he loved us and that he was a good man. As he's saying this, Arya is at the table and she grabs the note off the table and then puts it behind her back and rolls it.
Real sneaky like.
Yeah, real sneaky. And then he says that...
as he's talking about his father.
Yeah, and then he goes back. We cut back to him and Tywin saying that he was a weak man who nearly destroyed their house and name. And then he says, he says he's cold. He's like, I'm cold.
Cold.
And so she's like, I'll fetch you some water. And I think she says water and a flagon of wine.
No, she says more wood for the fire.
Oh, more wood?
Yeah, because he's cold.
Yeah, I was thinking that. Oh, okay. I don't.
But yeah,
I'm thinking about a different part.
I looked into because earlier I think it's in the first season when Tyrion he's like, all right, well let's go meet my father, and they go to the tent to meet him, and he's like, this is my father, Tywin, son of Tytos, and I was like, ooh, I need to find out who Tytos is because that's a pretty fucking serious sounding name.
Yeah.
And whoever made Tywin must be a pretty serious dude.
Yeah.
And then I look it up, and he's just this nice, chummy, clowning around guy.
Yeah.
Nothing
Yeah.
like Tywin. I was like, holy shit. This whole time I was like, with that name and everything, Tytos. I was for sure he was going to be this like real serious guy, but no. And apparently that's why Tywin's so serious, because he saw his dad almost kind of fuck House Lannister up.
Yeah.
And kind of lose their name and status and everything by being such a buffoon. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Tywin definitely watched his father. Yeah, I mean, he says it.
Well,
He's like,
people
he
would
almost destroyed the
and he would hear
house.
people in the towns like kind of talk shit on him, be like,
Yeah.
oh, he's kind of a silly bitch. And he's like, all right, when I'm of age, we're not having this shit. People
Yeah.
are gonna respect the hell out of me.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a driving force behind Tywin, and he wanted the Lannister name to mean something and to continue to mean something, a dynasty.
Yeah, I realized that he's a giant asshole, but he's definitely one of my favorite characters.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Tywin's the shit.
Yeah, definitely. A little bit about Tytos.
Tytos.
He had his daughter, one of his daughters, he agreed to marry to one of the Freys, the second son of Lord Waterfrey, that piece of shit.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah, basically because he wanted to please Lord Water, keep him on his good side. The announcement was made at a feast where most of the Lords of the West were in attendance, and upon hearing that, one of the guys left the hall in anger, and one of the ladies laughed out loud, and basically the rest of everyone was just like, we're not gonna say anything. The only person to speak out against the marriage was Tywin.
Oh, the brother.
Yeah, because he thought that the wedding was an uneven match.
He's like, we're too good for them.
We're too good for the Freys. So
We're absolutely too good
yeah,
for them.
So that's one of the moments where Tytos was like, all right, let me get Tywin. He might be a problem. So he sent Tywin to King's Landing to serve as the royal cupbearer to King Aegon. So actually Tywin was the Mad King's cupbearer when he was young.
Shit.
Yeah. So that's when some other things happened. Tytos didn't make the best decisions with all of his leadership in houses and stuff. And then his wife died after giving birth to another son. And the Western lands became kind of dismayed in the following years. A lot of bandits, a lot of outlaws. Basically, no one was listening to Tytos' orders anymore.
And then
They were basically attending to their own affairs. And 3 times King Aegon, before he was the Mad King, had to send forces from the Iron Throne to intervene and restore order in the West.
Hey. Yeah. Chill the fuck out.
Yeah, so basically Titus wasn't doing his job.
Tytos.
Tytos.
But then, all the while, Tywin's like, ho, just wait. Just you motherfuckers wait till I'm in power.
Yeah, and let me rephrase. I said the Mad King. I actually meant Aegon.
Aegon, yeah.
Yeah, the one before.
His
Sorry,
dad.
Guys. So
his dad, right?
this is what, yeah.
Mad King's father.
Or
his grandfather.
Grandfather. Yeah, because there was Johannes or whatever. There was a J1 in between them.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. That's where this gets confusing because everyone's an Aegon or something. Anyway, yes. So grandfather.
Got it.
So, so Titus basically couldn't get things going, really wasn't doing well. And that was when he took a mistress, which was the youngest son's wet nurse. He took her as a mistress. And that's when things went really, really bad after that. Titus basically, that's when people started, he basically went to war, he came back, he was getting really old, and he was like, I'm just going to embrace my mistress. I'm not really going to, deal with anything. Everyone started talking bad about them. She started wearing like the ladies' jewelry and stuff, which was a big slap in the face to Tywin.
Shit. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So anyway, basically she starts running things at the castle, and Titus lets this go and go and go until he gets really old, and then one day he gets up to the stairs to be with her, and he has a heart attack and he dies. And so Tywin watched his father basically almost run their house and their lands into nothing.
And he died just in time. And then how old was he when he died?
Tywin?
I mean, pretty young.
Well, it's hard. It's a little hard to know because
the ages are weird.
Book ages are definitely
weird.
off
All right,
from
not
the show
important.
ages.
Not important.
Yeah.
Let's get back to the show.
I would say that Tyrion was probably born by that point. Possibly.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. So whatever age that'll be. I don't know if that helps you. So anyway, we cut back to Arya. She's in a different place now. She's reading the note. And it basically says that Robb is they're talking about they're going south.
Heading south.
So she takes off running after reading the note. She's kind of running without looking exactly where she's going. She looks left, but then is running right and runs right into
dipshit from earlier.
Yeah,
that can't read.
Armory Lynch or Launch or Lorch or whatever.
Lorby.
Yeah. Lorby. He dies. It doesn't matter. He says, "What are you doing?" She says, "Tywin sent me to the armory." He's like, "Why?" And she's like, "I don't." He just sent me, and
just
so then
cause
he sees the note, and he takes the note, and he's like, "What's this?" And she's like, "That's what he told me to send." And he's like, "Well, let's go find Tywin and ask him because I don't believe your story." And that's when she takes off running.
Out.
Yeah, so she finds a way to hide. He's still looking for her. She runs off in a different direction. She goes to find. She's looking for Jaqen. She finds him.
I gotta phone this second death in on the quicks.
Yeah, she yells Armory Lurch or whatever his name is, and then that's when Jaqen's like, okay, and she's like,
a girl is given a second name.
Yeah, and she's like, right now, it has to be now,
like right now.
And he's like, a man must do what needs to be done when it needs to be done. You can't.
Yeah, a man will die when a man dies.
Yeah, a girl can't tell a man what to do. And she's like, no, it has to be now.
She's like, he's gonna tell Tywin.
Yeah, it's gotta be now.
And then he gives this it's like his daughter just begged him for like a quarter for like the last couple minutes. He's like, all right.
Yeah. So then we cut to Armory opening the door. Tywin's like, what is it?
What's up?
And he just falls because he's been.
Zoop! And he gets the Ace Ventura 2 dart in the neck and dies right there.
Yeah. So then we cut to Robb. He's walking through his encampment. He sees Talisa. I hate this plotline.
Who?
The girl, the medical girl.
Lady
Talisa.
You hate this plotline?
I like the book plotline a little better.
Okay.
She's a little more involved. It's an actual person who's tied to a house. It's got a little more interesting thread.
Okay.
I just hate it because it's like Robb's downfall is a woman.
I mean, this is true.
And it's like, I get it, but it's like.
But she's a very, very cute woman with adorable freckles.
Oh yeah, definitely. But
Can't
it's
get
like
past
it's
the
just
freckles.
like it's just so you see him winning so much, and then it's just like, oh, Robb. Ugh.
You could probably use that as an analogy for a lot of shit in life.
Yeah.
You see him winning so much, and then it's just,
And then pussy gets involved.
Oh, cripes.
So he says Lady Talisa, and she says, I'm not sure I'm a lady. I'm not quite sure of the Westeros customs. And he says, a woman, if I remember correctly, a woman of noble birth is always called a lady unless she's a queen or princess.
And he's strictly over here. He came over here to holler.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And she says, why do you think I'm noble? And he's like, it just seems like it.
Because you're adorable.
Yeah. And so she's like, well, what if I told you my father sold, I think she says lace, and that my mother died or something? And he's like, then I'd call you a liar. And she's like, well, that's not very noble. And then then breaks down and she's like, I always thought I was a brilliant liar. So
He's like, well, not so much.
yeah, and so she asks if they're going to be there long, and he's like, yeah, I'm not discussing that with you because
I don't know you.
Yeah, I don't know you. And she's like, oh, I'm not a spy. And he's like, that's what a spy would say.
Yeah. Pretty much what
yeah. And so Rob goes to ask if she'll join him for something, but then Catelyn arrives and
Catelyn sees
cockblocks.
him. Catelyn sees her adorable son and this precious, freckled up, pretty foreign-looking woman, and is like, oh, fuck.
Yeah. So Rob introduces Catelyn to Liza, and she asks what her last name is, and she says Mygrid. I try to write it down.
Sure. Knew it started with an M, though.
Knew it started with an M, no. Catelyn says that she didn't know, she doesn't know that name, and Tilsa says it's uncommon here. It's an old name in Valeria. I'm sorry, it's an old name from Volantis. Rob says, he turns to Catelyn and says that he missed her, and she's like, oh, really? It didn't seem like you were surprised here to see me right then.
Yeah.
While that was
when
happening.
You were hollering at the cute shorty when you are spoken for.
Yeah, so then she says, I wish you were free to follow your heart, but unfortunately you inherited your father's responsibilities and your promise to someone else, and it's an alliance we needed, and you need to pay that debt. So that's when Roose Bolton shows up with news from Winterfell, and he's like, there's been a letter. From Winterfell. Yeah.
There has been another letter.
Dripping like molasses.
Oh, shit.
So we cut to Jon. He's got...
I do declare.
You don't have to declare. Every time you make a statement, it's a... So we cut to Jon. He's got Ygritte tied up. Excuse me. He's got Ygritte loosely
on like
tied.
A leash.
Yeah. And he's walking her around, and she's like, oh, it seems like your brothers deserted you.
Yeah, I'm not seeing them.
And Jon's clearly lost. She says, well, I could tell you which way to go, but I'm not doing that. And he says, well, it doesn't matter. It's too dark. We're not going to go any further. And she's like, well, there's no shelter here. And he's like, there's no shelter anywhere. And she's like, yeah, there is if you know where to look. And she's like, well,
she probably knows like 6 caves around there. But it's like, well, let's sleep beside this rock instead.
There's probably one like a foot from them.
Yeah. But her, just to make a point, it's like, I'm not going to show you where any of these caves are, asshole.
I'd rather freeze to death. So she says, we should make a fire. And he's like, no fire. And she's like, but a fire. And he's like, no fire.
You heard me, woman.
Yeah. So he just kind of shoves her down and then goes to walk away. And she's like, well, we'll stay warmer if we stay close. And then she's like, I bet you'll freeze to death before I do. And then I bet your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ygritte always teasing him. So Jon thinks about it, and he finally reluctantly lays down and cuddles
reluctantly goes over there and hits a hard spoon.
Yeah, he doesn't have to spoon her. He could just lay beside her.
Or just go, what was it called? Planking? Just go plank on her.
Plank her, yeah.
Like, here you go. Are you warm?
Does this work? Is this
am
I supposed to?
Am I supposed to plank with my penis?
Yeah. So she says, do you think they're looking for you? Do you think they'll find you? And he says, yes. And she's like, you're brave. Stupid, but brave. And then she starts rubbing her ass against his dick.
She starts wiggling her boot.
Yeah. And he goes, stop moving.
Why are you moving?
Yeah. And she's like, I'm just trying to get comfortable. And he's like, well, stop it.
Stop it.
And she does for a second. And then she starts again.
She starts to wiggle.
And he's like, you're doing it again. And she's like, oh, was I? I didn't notice it this time.
And Jon's like, God damn it.
Yeah. So then we cut back to Rob. Roose is finally telling him what happened. Well, I guess he's probably not finally. We're just getting there.
Yeah.
And Rob says this cannot be true. And Roose is like, we've had multiple letters reporting the same thing. And he goes, treasonous whores. So he's like, what of my brothers? And he's like, nothing. And he's like, but Roderick's dead. And so that's when Catelyn gets pissed. And she's like, I told you never trust a Greyjoy. But it's like, what do you expect? He grew up with this
For
Theon.
sure.
You know, it's like his brother. I don't think he definitely never expected Theon to.
Hell no.
So Robb says,
Though he has been gone a while.
yeah. At this point, he'd be like, how long?
Has anyone talked to him?
Anyone
Did he even clock
seen
out?
Theon? Yeah. Anyone maybe catch him in the break room? So Robb says he has to go north, and he's like, how can I be a king if I can't even hold my own castle? And Roose is like, look, you can't do that. You have
Send the homies.
Yeah, and he's like, my bastard will retake the Winterfell for you.
He's a crazy asshole. He would love to do it.
Yeah, well, you know, this is Roose being like, oh, let me take Winterfell.
And when I mean take, I mean
No, this is
take.
Roose thinking that, oh, I'll get a better castle once this is done. But then we all know Ramsay. Ramsay's like, nah, this is my castle.
yeah.
Yeah.
This is mine now.
Yeah, this is mine now. And he's way worse than Theon. So then Robb says, he says, there's no talking. Theon's definitely going to die. Like, I don't want to hear what he has to say. I want to kill him. But then, though, he walks back in a second. So then he says, so then when Roose is like, look, my bastard would love to bring you Theon's head. He says, Rickon and Bran's safety is paramount. He says, and he goes, well, I want Theon brought to me alive. I want to ask him why he did this before I take his head.
Yup.
Yeah. So then,
Robb's a G.
yeah.
He loves to take the heads.
Yeah, definitely. So we cut to Osha. She's in Theon's quarters, which theoretically he's in Ned and Catelyn's room.
Yeah. He's the main
Lord of Winterfell's
the
room.
main spot.
Yeah. So she says, he's like, why are you here? And she's like, look, I hate the Starks just as much as you do. You were there the day I was taken captive. Like,
Yeah, you know my whole story here.
You know what's going on here. And
you know what it is, bitch.
Yeah. You know what it is, bitch. What are you? She says she says that there's other ways to serve other than a spear, which of course he's still not going to give to her. And she says the free people know things, and of course Theon's like what? To eat dirt?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm
all we
talking
know.
about.
Yeah. She's like other things, savage things, and she kind of lets her robe fall. And of course that gets Theon's attention.
And Theon's like, oh, I see. You've you've heard stories.
Yeah.
You've heard stories of the thrust of the pump,
The pump.
the mighty pump.
The mighty pump.
You've heard. You've heard. Oh, God.
You've been talking
sto-
to Rosalind?
Yeah. Have you heard stories of the garbage fuck?
Yeah. So he said, I always wondered what you had under there. She says, well, this is it, but it comes with a price. And he's like, what? And she's like, what all free people want? I want my freedom. And he's like, well, you should have it then, but only if you serve me well. And that's when I snickered and was like, well, that won't take like much.
You mean she needs to lay there while you blast and like thrust at her 6 or 7 times?
Yeah, she needs to be like, oh, Theon,
You are so sick at this.
you are
This feels really good.
very rhythmic.
I like this a lot.
Yeah. So we cut to Sansa. She's got a like cut above her eye. Shay's like helping her take care of it. And Sansa goes, I thought they were going to kill me. And she's like, the man, he hated me, even though he never met me before. Why did he want to hurt me? And Shay's like, yeah, because you have everything he'll never have.
Yeah, also, yeah, welcome to the real world.
Yeah. And she's like, but look, it doesn't matter now. Dude's dead. And Sansa's like, I just don't understand why they would do this to me. I hate the king more than anyone. And that's when Shay's like, you can't say things like that.
Yeah, I want to pipe down there a little.
And Sansa's like, well, I know I can say it in front of you. And that's when Shay's like, don't trust anyone. It's safer that way. Giving Sansa probably the best advice. Which
not
it's
bad.
like, well,
Clearly,
if Shay's worth anything, it's that line.
also clearly they've been broing down
Yeah.
because she's very comfortable with her now.
Yeah. So Theon has used his 3 pumps up, and he is now asleep.
The pumpage
Has stopped.
has stopped. Yeah, word.
Asha, she crawls out of bed and
She
leaves
was
the
like-
room.
Go ahead. Sorry, I was gonna make a stupid joke. Onward.
No, okay,
Not gonna do it.
sure.
Yep.
Okay.
Sure.
So we see her walking out of like the castle area, well, the like main castle area, but she's stopped by an Ironborn guy, and he's like, "What are you doing here?" And she's like, "I have something for you from Prince Theon." And he's like, "What is it?" And she's like, "Me."
The bod.
And she's like, "I'm to make the rounds and keep you warm." She starts making out with the dude, but then like just
Well, she's like kind of grabbing his joint.
yeah.
Then she's like kind of grabbing his joint, and then he's like, as soon as he starts to really get into it, she's like, pulls the old like yawn,
Yeah.
fake yawn thing, grabs his knife, or maybe it's a knife that she has on her.
I think it's a knife she has on
Okay,
her.
and then
yeah.
cuts his fucking throat
Yeah,
wide
slits
open.
his throat. And then she turns and
At
she.
least the dude got his dick played with a little bit right
That's true.
before he died.
That's the best death you can have, I
What are you
guess.
gonna do?
Yeah.
I mean, if you gotta go,
Yeah. So she whistles, and it's quick too. Playing with the dick, and then you're dead.
for sure.
Yeah.
Dick, quick death.
Yeah.
Run it.
Yeah. So she whistles, and then we see Rickon, Bran, Hodor, and the direwolves come out of the place where she just was, and that's when they all leave through the back gate of Winterfell.
We out.
Out into
Happy
the
little
night.
family.
Yep.
2 dire wolves and a microphone.
2 direwolves and a microphone.
Where's that?
So we cut to Dany. She's talking to Duck Sauce. She's
That's right,
complaining
she
about she's complaining about all the shit deals that she's been given. And he's like, "Look, when I came to the city, I had nothing, but today I'm the richest man in Karth." And he says, "The path from poverty to wealth is not always pure, but you can't have any regrets."
Yeah, you're gonna make some enemies.
Yeah. So he goes and pushes open the door. Is he saying this?
Is this
like
his crib?
No, it's her chambers.
It's like her chambers at his spot.
at his spot.
And she had a bunch of like
She had
her
Dothraki people.
people chilling in
Yeah,
there.
yeah. And they're all dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very dead.
Yeah, so she runs up to like her chamber area. She runs inside. She sees the Dothraki handmaiden on the floor. She's been strangled. And
We have 3 empty dragon
yeah,
baskets.
and she's like, "Where are they?" And then she goes, "Where are my dragons?" And that's when we hear the dragons. They're being carried under tarp thing on this guy's back up to a very large tower, which of course we'll all know to be the House of the Undying later.
Yeah. Blue lip
Yeah.
bitch.
And that's when the episode ends.
Roll credits.
Yeah.
Super good episode.
Such a good episode.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Cannot wait to watch the next one.
Yeah, it'll be. I mean, from here on out, obviously, it just gets more and more insane
yeah.
and intense.
Let's
But
see. Was that 6?
this was
7.
6. Yeah.
All right.
We have what? 3 more of this season.
Well, Blackwater is at the end of this season, right? Is it 9? I think it's 9. And
it's always the penultimate.
yeah, that's when all
Yeah.
the shit goes down
Yeah.
on 9, and
Yeah.
then they kind of like
Top it
they'll
off on 10.
hit you with something real
Yeah.
hard on 10 to kind of bring you into the next season. But 9 is when like the shit of the season goes down.
And Battle of Blackwater,
So good.
It's still
I
an
haven't watched
episode that I feel like. I mean, it has been a while since I've watched it, but as far as I remember, I feel like it rivals some of the like movies that we've seen from the show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the other seasons.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's been a while since we watched it. I'm fucking hyped to watch this. So
It's always fun to rewatch because, at this point, you and I, well, I've obviously read the books a lot, but we've watched the show a lot too.
Oh, yeah.
And we've also looked into and discussed and had conversations.
yeah, we've nerded out on this shit.
Yeah, so now is like when you start seeing the little things. It's like when you watch
Absolutely.
The Office for 50
When
million
also
times.
you can kind of like you can put side things that don't matter. It's like whatever. I don't need to pay attention to that. It's
Yeah.
like you can really zone in on the things. It's like okay, let me look for some shit I didn't see last time, or pay more attention to this. It's like I'm catching things.
Yeah.
Again, because this is what our 4th time
probably
going through this shit.
Yeah.
As a whole.
As a whole, I would say.
Seen single episodes like a ton of times.
Oh, yeah.
Especially once you get into the later seasons.
Yeah.
My God, you can just watch those like movies.
Well, we always tend to do the premiere on Sunday, and then we'll rewatch it.
And that's what we're planning on doing during the new season anyway. It's like, because Holly just sits here like while we're watching the episode and types the shit like as we're watching it. So we don't want to do that shit while we're watching.
No,
this
I want to.
stuff. So,
I do want to enjoy.
yeah,
this.
Sunday
This
nights
is-
we'll watch it.
Yeah.
And then we always rewatch it the next day anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, we did that anyway. So
So now
then we'll do the episode.
Yep.
But anywho, we'll
Yeah.
get there when we get there.
Yeah. So we're gonna try to put them out about as quick as we are now.
Yeah,
if
I
we
mean,
can.
I think the plan is to try to do at least one a day.
Yeah.
And then obviously we'll have shitty days at work or
We have
something else
87
comes up.
days and like 50 some episodes. So theoretically we can get it done if
Yeah.
we
It just depends
work.
on if we both have to come home and have energy and not be grumpuses.
Yeah. And to segue, we can't interrupt our other podcast either. So that's the other
That's
little
true.
thorn in the side.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, she definitely needs time to research for Murd-Up, our other podcast
Yeah.
that you can listen to, murduppodcast.com.
shout out.
Little
yeah.
plug.
Yeah, so as always, Twitter, Instagram, Throne Thugs Podcast. If you want to email me, it's thronethugs@gmail.com. Theories, if you have artwork, fan art for the show, not for necessarily Throne Thugs, but if you have Throne Thugs artwork, that's cool too. But yeah, if you have something you want to post, something you drew that's cool, then we're definitely trying to involve everyone. We want to have conversations because it is the biggest show
Ever.
Yeah, and it's like this is the way for all of us to get involved, and we only have a small set of episodes.
Yeah.
So like, let's devour what we have now while we have it.
Definitely.
Before we get this new material.
For sure.
Yeah. So that's it.
Alrighty, everyone. Thanks for listening.
Yep.
And we will see you at the next one.
Yep. Bye.
Peace out.